god, there's definitely content where I am happy to produce it, but it's difficult to show it to people who wouldn't understand, ASMR being one of them, or just like sitting and eating. And one of the comments I get a lot from family is like, Lily, you are so beautiful. Why hide behind character? I'm like, damn, Mama didn't say I was ugly. I just like Vtubing. What do you mean? Damn.
That's exactly how I feel about it as well. It just
Right.
being a PNG anime character gives you so many more options for how you can like brand yourself and express yourself, you know. And I feel like if I just sat with my webcam on, I don't know if it would really have quite the same appeal. I mean, of course, you know. There's no need for us to do a face reveal. I mean, this is my face, of course. You've already seen it.
Yeah.
But, you know, at the same time, it's such a different experience, and I think that's probably why it's taken off so much. Like, there's so much more room to be creative when there's that degree of separation between the real person and the character. You know, you don't have to worry about people learning too much about who you are, because it's not who you are that matters, it's how you present yourself. Whereas with a webcam streamer, people always feel like they want to know just exactly who you are, and then suddenly there's a part of you online that can never be taken back.
Yeah, that is, well, I hope this isn't too much immersion breaking, but I used to be a webcam streamer before becoming a VTuber. So sorry if that's immersion, I didn't mean.
No, I can't believe it, no!
She's not a real orca, I can't believe it.
Oh no, I can't believe it! So it's just like, there's definitely pros and cons to being able to just stick to your character. Whether you play a character or not doesn't matter. People need to understand, to be a VTuber, you still play a character. You exaggerate your facial expressions and stuff like that, you know, to make sure everything shows up well. But also, it's really nice that I can go shopping and no one will know. I'm just in the store buying liquor and no one's gonna be like, Shylily, oh my god, are you buying this because you'll be on Voxes under the table? That doesn't happen because no one knows. So it's really nice to separate that. I really like that. It gives me so much joy, but also makes me feel safe, really safe.
That's a big part of it, especially because I think that like especially, I mean, it's been a thing for people who are famous in a mainstream sense as well. But being sort of even somewhat famous can put you in a lot of danger sometimes. You know,
I can.
There are the kinds of people who, you know, I mean, maybe the sorts of people who, in my opinion, mostly just deserve like help or to sort of have someone to talk to, but. You know, sometimes it can be difficult for people to sort of draw the line between what's acceptable and what's, you know, definitely going to get you landed in jail. You know, the kind of people who will just every single day. I have moved somewhere that has really good security systems and stuff, so that I can like, you know, I don't have to worry about it. But every time I walk out, I go to the shop, I just feel like someone across the road. I'm going to say something, and someone across the road is going to be like, is that him? And then I'm gonna have to move again. You know, it's definitely a career that comes with so many good parts, but it's pretty scary sometimes. You know, to think about what people are gonna do when they're really attached to you. You know.
Yeah, before I became a VTuber, I was nowhere near the size I am now. But even just thinking how small of a streamer I was, and like the humble little tiny itty bitty teeny weeny community I had, I still had recognitions outside of my stream, just in public. And my favorite I like to tell is when I was at a train station. I forgot what it was. I think it's on my way to work. And some dude recognized me and like pressured me into having Dunkin' Donuts with him. And I just didn't know how to handle the situation because I don't know how people take rejection. I don't know this person, and this random person just walks up to me and just like pressures me into hanging out, asking personal questions like, where are you going? Oh, do you work there? Blah, blah, blah. I don't want to talk about that. It's just, but I also don't know what happens if I have this rejection towards him, because what if he just like loses his temper, and I'm just scared because what if he pressures me to Dunkin' Donuts, and even though I said no like 5 times, maybe he's like, how fucking dare you, and like makes a scene in public. I don't want that either, so it's scary. So I'm really happy I have this separation now.
Yeah. That, like, I'm first of all really, really sorry you went through that. That sounds absolutely terrifying.
It's okay. It's been many years now.
That's good.
I can laugh about it.
I've never really had that kind of an experience yet, but I feel like it's just a matter of time until something happens. But I also kind of get what you mean about like the whole Rupert Grint syndrome of not being able to say no to fans. Like, I feel like if someone came up to me and they were like, even if someone went as far as like photoshopping images I put on Twitter, being able to triangulate my address coming up to my front door,
Yeah.
I feel like I wouldn't even have it in me to call the police. I'd be like, all right, come in, would you like some tea? You know, it reminds me of, like, the reason I say Rupert Grint is there's this story about that Daniel Radcliffe told one time about how, like, they were on a night out and they got recognized, obviously, because they're in Harry Potter, and so Rupert Grint got into a conversation with a fan of his, and he literally just couldn't say no to anything that happened, and eventually they just wound up back at his house, you know?
Oh, God.
Because he just couldn't say no, and they were like, hey, he was like, yeah, I'm gonna go home now, and they're like, all right, and then they got in the car with him, and he said, okay, yeah, sure, you know. They're just kind of like not able to say no. It's just
the confidence of some people. All right, sure, let's go home to your place. What? Yeah, I just struggle with rejection. It's really difficult to say no, especially because I am very blessed to have this career. The people that like me this much, they are also ultimately the people that made me. So that makes it even harder to give them rejection and say no. And it's just, you have to find a balance where it's just like, okay, this is the line. I'm sorry, but I have to say no.
And it's difficult as well, like with how convincing people can be, you know, to try and figure out where the line actually is. Having your own boundaries is difficult sometimes because I think there's this big part of every person where they wonder, am I being unreasonable? You know, when I say no, whenever I think about the fact that, like, logically, if someone figures out where you live and comes and tries to interact with you, or if, like, in your case, someone just won't leave you alone, you've got every right to call the police. But I don't think I could ever actually do that. I think I would just look at my phone and be like, listen, I'd like try to ask them, and then if they said, well, why are you asking me to leave? I'd be like, well, I don't know, I mean, I guess you can stay. You know?
Like, oh, sorry, I didn't mean it like that, stay, please. Yeah, it's just, it's such a weird pressure. Like, people go like, it's so, just call the police. It's so easy to say. Like, you're gonna talk to the stranger who can't take no for an answer and just rip out your phone and put like 911 in there. It doesn't work like that. There's this weird pressure in the eyes of people around you where it's just like, it's awkward. You're making a scene worse than it already is.
I'm really scared of that. Like, even when a scene happens around me, I can tend to get really like, ugh. You know, I remember I was out at a restaurant recently, and like virtually nothing happened. Like there was some Halloween party happening, and some kids like were running around the restaurant, and there was like a parent who told them off a little bit too loud, and I was like, you know, it felt similar to me. I don't know if you've ever had like a fight break out in front of you, but it feels really like, whoa, you know.
Only one time, and I remember it vividly because it never happened before, but it sticks with you. It's just like, oh wow, okay. Is
that a fun story or something you'd rather not go into?
I don't know if it's fun. It was just a couple arguing at the bus stop. I didn't even quite catch what it was about because I arrived there and it was just like screaming and like throwing shit at each other and just like, wow, they are really mad. I don't know what happened, but sheesh. Sorry or not sorry, I don't know who's in the right, who's in the wrong. I don't know.
I hate to say it, but it is when there's like a situation happening, but it's just far enough away that it's not going to affect you. It's so impossible to look away. Like you just really want to like, kind of peek around the corner. It's like when I was living like a year or so ago when I was living with my old roommates, there was a couple doors down, there was like this domestic dispute going on. Like there was this couple who were yelling at each other really loudly in their back garden, and we were just poking our head out the window trying to like get a good angle to see like what the hell's going on. And then you start theory crafting and you think like, what do you think's happening? It's like maybe one of them's having an affair, or maybe one of them's doing this, one of them's doing that, and then you just kind of go back inside. You know, maybe one of them comes outside, tries to talk like, and you're worried one of them's gonna see you, so you kind of back inside, and then later we check out the window again and the police are showing up, and it's like, oh shit, it's escalating.
No way.
And it just gets really interesting.
It reminds me of the fucking meme of the cat just like standing on its hind legs, being like, "The fuck they doing over there?"
The fuck they doing over there?
That's me. God, yeah. When I still used to live in Denmark, I also lived in an apartment complex with very thin walls, and there was this couple where I'm just like, I don't know why they were still together, but I shit you not, I think every second or third night they argued vividly for like an hour towards bedtime. I'm just be laying in bed and I just hear like smashing and throwing and like table clapping. I'm like, damn, what are they doing? I don't understand why. And I've lived there for like a good almost 2 years, and it's just like 2 or 3 times a week, maybe 4 times. They're just arguing. Why?
It's difficult to think about. I mean, thankfully I don't think I've ever been in a situation where I've had like, I don't know, frequent arguments with someone who I live with, but it's still like really sad to just think like that's what, you know, is it like a two-way fight where both of them are shitty people or both of them have issues,
right?
or is it one person yelling at another person who's just doesn't know how to fight back? It's just, oh god,
it's just sad.
Makes me really happy that that's not what we're dealing with at the moment, but then everyone has their own things that they're dealing with, I guess.
I guess so. Like, I never know the full story. I try to not judge too much, but it is difficult to have zero judgment when you hear them every single night, and it's just like, why are you still... What is going on? I truly wonder.
What is going on in that person's life? But you can't know. You can't know.
You don't know.
And I guess, sort of looping it back to streaming, what's really interesting is the fact that, like, I don't know if you get this, but whenever I sort of read my own chat, I can't escape from, like, the thought... There's a porn bot in my chat now. That's fantastic. I was just when I said when you look at your chat, I look at my chat and I just see I see a profile picture with like with an ass in it, and I was like, oh, fantastic. But it's difficult to look at chat and not kind of think about how every person who talks in chat is like a whole person with their own personality, their own thoughts, experience, life, maybe things they need help with, things they're struggling with, and then I remember Markiplier mentioning this a while ago, and I really admire Markiplier like so much, and the way that he was mentioning how much it broke his heart that when he got bigger as a creator, he realized he could never have like a really personal relationship with every one of his fans, you know, because there were just so many of them. But yet they're all people still, you know, they're all really people with really rich experiences, and it's pretty difficult, you know, when you want to be close with people and you kind of see people, you think like, yeah, it would be really nice if I could help them. But of course, you know, the relationship between creator and fan is such a sticky, messy maze to navigate that most of the time it's best just not to even attempt it, you know.
Sometimes we make it worse by attempting it, because like either the people feel like, oh, so his problem is worth talking about but not mine, so like he gets attention, I don't. But other times it's also just like you just want to help people for the sake of helping, but then it gets a little bit too personal, too much. Like I had this person just recently, and they seemed so sweet, and I was like, oh, fuck it. I see his name around 24/7. I'll add him in Battle.net because he just shot me like a friend request. Fuck you, why not? The second I applied, it was just non-stop texting, just like, hi, how you do? Welcome, I'm doing this. Can I join this? Can you add my friend? He is my best friend. This is his name. Can you add him back? And it just got so much to the point where it's just like, I would have loved to really be friends, but you're too much. It's like work suddenly, and I felt so heartbroken when I was just like, no, sorry, and I removed them again as friends because I just couldn't. It was too much.
Yeah, and again, it's like that power imbalance, like the creator and fan, and you know that when you do remove that person, it's going to affect them so much. It's going to like hurt them a lot, but you need to do that for your own health as well.
Yes, it's just, I hurt that person for the sake of my own health, and that hurt me too, but in the end of the day, it was the right choice. But it is, just because it's the right choice doesn't mean it's a good choice. It's still shitty to do. It still hurts. Not everything that's right feels right.
Yeah, exactly. Sometimes it's the hardest thing to do that is the right thing to do. You know, something you might have been putting off for a long time, where you think, God, I really need to do this, I need to do this, I need to set this person straight, I need to get this out of my life, but then it's those emotions can feel so difficult to contend with. And it's the fact that, we may have to deal with that on a greater level, I guess. And not to diminish the experiences of anyone who's dealt with this in their own lives, but
Of course.
I think it's the fact that, there are a lot of people in every streamer's fan base, whether or not you have the sort of content that sort of attracts those type of fans. It's everyone with an audience has hundreds of people who would become that way, and it's difficult to think about. Like, people would be happy to spend time with me, but they also it would cause problems if I did try to become friends with them, and so it's really difficult to deal with. Like, the human side of you just has to get put on the side while you try and focus on this weird middle ground where you support people, but only so much,
It is sad. Most people I stick to nowadays are almost exclusively from back in the days when I was smaller and was able to form more personal connections, because it was more doable, it was more realistic. And then, yeah, the shitty thing about growing is that you cannot form that personal experience anymore outside of stream. So you just stick to the ones you have, and it sometimes is sad.
It's difficult. I imagine it's this way even if you're not a streamer, even if you're
Absolutely, yeah.
in any career, because every career has growth to it, whether you're like a store owner or whether you're a corporate person or whether you're like an actor or something like that. Every time you advance into the next stage of your career, you have more people wanting either to be you or to be beside you, and saying no to everybody is really difficult. I mean,
It is.
Oh god, I get so many times where like someone will ask me for a collab, and it's like, yeah, this is at 4 a.m. and this is happening and this is happening, and I just sit there and I think, it's like, I really don't want to do this, but I can't imagine being like, no, sorry, I can't, or like, no, sorry, or
It's
even worse, no, sorry,
difficult to
I
say
just
no.
don't want to. I will never be able to say that to a person.
is
I
the
just don't want
worst.
to. I have to come up with an excuse.
Yeah, you have to come up with a valid excuse. I don't think I've ever said no to anyone. Not, but I remember I've wanted to, but there have been some people who were really fishy, and it didn't evolve into a collab, and I'm low-key glad, because it's like, it felt so artificial. It's just, they ask for a collab, and then like literally 20 minutes later they get upset I didn't reply yet, and I'm like, my god, it's 4 a.m. for me, relax. I am not replying to a Twitter DM at 4 a.m. Like, I'm glad this collab didn't happen, I suppose, because I already know enough then.
Yeah, it's difficult, I guess, especially, I mean, because you and I have had very different paths to where we are, right? Like, I obviously, pretty much a nobody for a long time, and then join Nijisanji and suddenly, get on like the top level. Whereas you sort of have been growing very gradually over a long period of time as an indie. And I've heard stories about like what the indie community, especially at like the low to mid level, can be like, and it sounds really difficult to get ahead. Like there are a lot of really predatory people in that community. And obviously naming no names, but it's definitely a reputation.
Never any names, but that's just the reputation of like the indie label to begin with. But it is unfortunately true, and because of that, some people just never make it, just because of the hardships they have to face and overcome. So it's just sad to see that they have so much potential, but people never let them grow past that stage, because they're just like so driven by jealousy and hate and holding them back, and toxicity, and it's just too much for some people to grow past that.
It's almost like, it's almost like a lot of people will sort of jump at the chance to do anything to grow, especially considering Vtubing is such an exploding niche. Everyone wants to find their piece of the pie, and so it seems almost like a thing where if someone maybe in the mid to high level indie community makes even a small mistake, someone else who's connected will almost jump at the chance to sort of cancel them for it, even if it's not that big of a deal. Maybe they had a personal disagreement, maybe something went only slightly wrong, suddenly the twit longers start flying, all of this shit starts happening because someone wants to just jump, leapfrog over the person in front of them and try to get ahead. And it's a real shame, because I think that what Vtubing began as is just a different way of creating content. You know, it's a way of really expressing yourself, you know, using something way farther away from ourselves and expressing a story that maybe we couldn't with our real faces. And then it suddenly sort of becomes a really nasty community to be a part of. But I guess that's the case with any sort of large community, is that there will always be bad apples.
I think so as well. Like, it's just, we are so invested in the community that we see the good and the bad. So I think that's just with every community, not just VTubing, but also I feel like VTubing gives so many people an outlet to express themselves through something else, VTubing, which is where I think lots of that comes from. They feel a little bit too safe just hiding behind and speaking through someone else, that it becomes a little bit too easy to just like openly drag people down, even though they don't deserve it.
I'd never really thought about that. Like, you can access more of your bad traits because you feel less connected to it. For me personally, I feel unable to remove myself from the person that I am online, and I feel like if someone's dragging Vox Akuma, they're dragging me as well, and that makes me upset.
I feel the same way.
You know.
Yeah. It's grown to be literally me. Like, it's like when you have shoes that are too big and you just grow into them, and it's like, oh, these fit nicely. That's a VTuber character. At some point, yeah, it's a character, but you grow into it, and it's like you attach yourself to it, and it's just like you breathe and live through the same heart and lung, and it just becomes the point where if people insult my VTuber persona, they insult me, because maybe it's different when people play a character, but it hurts me personally still, because that's just how I am in person. So when people dislike something about my personality, I'm like, damn, you dislike me as a person then, because that's just how I am. So it does hurt still. It's still like, just because you drag Shylily doesn't mean you aren't also hurting Lily.
God, that was really that was a stirring speech. I kind of lost myself in that, and I was like, oh God,
I'm a drink one to that.
I'm the host on a talk show. I need to be better than this. Yes, I have some good news.